Iboru, Iboya, Ibochiche, everybody. How y'all walk going today? Today, we're going to be going over and discussing who Iyalode is, also known as Ochun. And first, we're going to start off with the greeting, which is Ye Ye, Kari, Ori, Ye Ye, Yo. Now let's dive into the prayer for Ochun. Ochun, Iwa, Iya, Mi O. Iwa, Iya, Mi Mo. Ni Ko, Bo Si. Ni Wa, Si. Iya, Mi Mo. Iya Lode. Ogu Ido. Abada. Bade. Wo Mi. Male. Ki. Kirigo. Kede. Tuche. Ni. E. Ku. Ele. Ku. Ele. Ache Ochun. So now we're going to take a look at the who is Ochun, the what, when, where, and also why. So now we're about to dive into the who is Ochun. And first and foremost, I want to get into what a lot of people talk about and know Ochun as being loving, sweet, and caring. But at the same time, one thing you need to understand about Ochun is she hates being taken advantage of or feel like people are unappreciative or ungrateful. And that's what people talk about the wrath of Ochun. So it's like a give and go. You have to know how to receive and you also have to know how to give when dealing with Ochun. And when she also absolutely is a pet peeve of hers is when she constantly give advice and you do not adhere to it. And then you want to go ahead and play the victim. So first, we're going to go ahead and dive into the Odu Oche Payire. And out of the Odu Oche Payire, there's two Patakis here. And one of them is here where the people on earth didn't necessarily have the means to take care of themselves and to provide food for themselves. So Ochun came down and gave them the finances and what they needed to do, and the town was able to sit back and provide for themselves with food. The next Bataki here, from out of the Odu, Oche Payire, it was here when the town people came together because they was hungry. And they all came together and put their funds together. Basically like kind of like a Esu, when they all come together and put their money together. But when they went to go to the merchants to buy the food, the money was no good. So then because of this, the people got together and started speaking about what they could do to go ahead and provide money. And that's when a lady came through and she heard the crowd of people talking and she was carrying a very beautiful child. And this child was admired by so many people. The elderly lady, hearing about the situation, tells the crowd of people, don't worry, you guys go ahead and watch this child of mine while I go and get what's needed to help you guys. So the elderly lady goes home and she comes back with like a tack or a money box. When she comes through with the tack or a money box, she starts to hand out money. And now the people are able to buy food. And as they're eating, they start to thank Alofi. Alofi, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alofi. And at that moment, Ochun looked at everyone and said, you guys have been pleading and crying and asking for help, and you have not been able to get the funds. Alofi has not blessed you with the funds because you guys are ungrateful. And I, my own self, take my own money to help you, to feed you, and you don't thank me, but instead you thank Alofi. Like I say, when I opened up speaking about who was Ochun, Ochun is one of those that will give the skin off of her back. But the moment an individual is ungrateful, you will see the wrath of Ochun. The next Odu here that we're going to speak about as to shows who Ochun is out of the Odu Obedende. And out of this Odu, it shows here where Ochun is part owner of a Yesa village. In this Odu and also in this Pataki, it shows here how Yesa village actually saved the world. And part of the reason why the Ide is so well respected amongst Iku because of the colors of green and yellow. Because Ochun and Ogun are the owners of a Yesa village out of the Odu Obedandi. Because here in this town was where the individuals were not able to take care of themselves. And so because of this, Iku will go around eating the people. And then it wasn't until finally they got to, or Iku arrived at the town. And when she arrived to this town of the Yesa village, Iku and her servants will go around to check out the towns in the city. But when they came across the Yesa village, they began to smell a stink. And the stink was so strong to the point Iku said, there's no need for us to proceed forward because whatever is in this area or in this town is now dead. So Iku left. As time went by, when you turn around and you remove the outskirts of what was covering Yesa village, which was the intestines of the dead animals, you saw a whole functioning society inside of this town. So it was because the people who were protected by Yesa village was able to live in our last Iku. Now we're about to take a dive into what is Ochun. And what I mean by this is a few things Ochun has done and also like what she's known for. So here we're going to dive into the Odu Iwori Boche, where it shows how Ochun is the wealthiest deity of them all. And here in this Pataki, Ochun was going through a difficult time and situation because she constantly gave and gave and gave. And not really following directions and understanding or paying attention to that she can give and give and give, but people won't necessarily do things in return. Where it shows her ignorance, not allowing her to understand that she can't help everybody. So because of this, she goes through a hard time and she goes to see Baba Rumila. When Rumila had his godson, his Ihado, do a Osode, and his Odu came down, Iwori Boche. And that's where Baba Rumila told her that she had to do an ebo with a coral comb. And with the comb they had to do, she had to comb her hair and then also do an ebo at the river along with the sand. After she does that, this is the reason why Ochun is known as the most wealthiest deity of them all, because her finances and the money represents the sand, and the sand is covered all over the world. The next Pataki we're going to dive into is out of the Odu Irosokalu, where it shows how Ochun constantly helps and where she saved the world. And out of this Odu, it was a time where everything basically became scarce, and the women weren't getting along with each other, human beings weren't getting along with each other, the animals weren't reproducing, so the food was obviously at a shortage and things became scarce. The rivers weren't flowing, and everything just went rampant with violence because things was basically scarcity. So then because of that, the people went and got a consultation because of the hardship from Baba Rumila. And when he sat down and gave him the Osode, the consultation, this Odu, Irosokalu, which is Irosokana, came down. And that's when Rumila told him and said, the only one who could fix this situation is Ochun. And it's the reason why is because Alofi is angry with the children. And she's the only one who can extract the forgiveness. This is where the term comes from, that Ochun is the only one that could turn an Osogbo situation to Ire other than Baba Rumila. So then because of this, they told him that they need to go and do Ebo with Ochun and ask for forgiveness. So then the Ebo marked a basket of buns, some eggs, a rooster, some thread, black and white thread, needles, some arrows, honey, ganea, which is a guinea hen, doves, a few other food, a key, and liquor, and lots of money. So Chun basically went out on her way and on his path. Along the road of her going to meet Alofi to speak with him about the situation, she bumped into Ochun. And when she bumped into Echu, she told Echu Legua, "Ooh, well, you must be pretty tired." Echu go ahead explaining back to her, "Yeah, I am, but I'm guarding this road that leads to a Lofi house because I have strict orders not to let anyone pass." Ochun goes ahead and tell him, "Hey, why don't you take some of this water here I got for you?" Echu Legua drinking the water quenches his thirst, along with the honey and the rum. Tells Ochun, thank you so much. Because you looked out for me, you can go ahead and pass and be on your way." But then he told her, "You gonna bump into and meet a white-haired woman." So she goes, "Okay." That's when he went ahead and told her, give her the eggs and also ask her what she wants. So then, Ochun was just listening. She goes on her way. When she went ahead and bumped into the woman along the way, Ochun goes ahead and gets her and offer her the things that Echu Legua said that basically she should offer him. So then, because of that, the lady who's on Chanla goes ahead and lets Ochun passes through. But then told her, along the way, you're going to basically run into Chango. And when you bump into Chango, give him the plantains and the rooster. So then as she's walking down the path, Ochun goes ahead and she bumps into like a hunter who actually ends up being Ochosi. And while she bumps into Ochosi, she sees Ochosi's running out as Ochosi is chasing something because he's a hunter. Ochosi then stops and looks at Ochun. And then he also looks at the prey he was hunting. And Ochun, that's when Ochun spoke to him and explained to him, "I'm Ochun. I see here you being the fierce hunter that you are, have ripped clothing. How can that be? You don't have the time to sit down and mend these things?" He just chuckled and laughed, and Ochun went ahead, took his clothes, and started sewing them for him. At the time of her sewing them, Ochosi, hungry because he missed his prey, asked her, "Well, what you got for me?" She tells him, "Well, I got these pigeons and a few other things for you. Here you go." He goes ahead, takes them, and eats them. Then he goes ahead and gives her some arrows and said, "Hey, you might need this along your way. I'm a companion of Ogun and Echu, so I'm here to help you. You can go ahead and be on your way." So then, Ochun's walking. As she walks in, she finally bumps into Chango. And Chango told her, "This beautiful lady, my, what you doing here? Don't you know it's forbidden to pass this road? For I'm the one who guards it for a Lofi. And a Lofi doesn't want to be bothered by anybody." Ochun then tells him, "Well, along this way, basically a woman had told me to bring you this rooster and plantains and honey." Chango goes, "Oh, okay, you brought gifts. Well then, I guess I can go ahead and escort you down this road to where you need to go. But once you get to this, you're going to come across some children. And when you come across these children, you need to go ahead and give them the bread and a few other items that you have." Ochun, listening, says, "Okay." She goes along it. When she gets there and saw the little boys who were protecting the door, Ochun smiled at them. The boys smiled back. As she starts to reach out, brings out the bread and the honey. When she does that, then Alofi begins to look down the window. And then he goes ahead and shouts and asks what's going on. She then goes ahead and tells him, "I'm here for the situation at B." And when she does that, she goes ahead and offers Alofi something. At this time, Alofi is so ecstatic and happy about the presents that Ochun brought him, goes ahead and tells her, "Well, as long as the world is the world, I will continue to bring blessings to the world. I will allow the rain to fall from the skies to replenish the earth and vegetation can grow. I will allow you to be able to bring sweetness to the world to help change the things." This is where Ochun ends up saving the world out of the Odu, Irosokalu. Now we're going to take a look at the wind when it comes to Ochun. And the wind here, basically we're going to start off when Ochun descended from the heaven skies and came down here to earth. And the Odu she arrived here on earth is out of the Odu, Oche Otura. So we're going to take a look at here when Ochun actually gained the name Iyalode. And this is out of the Odu Ireteyero. Here, Ochun was married to Baba Rumila, and they were sitting at home having a good time. And at this time, Baba Rumila got an alert, and the alert was from his business partner, Echikwelu. And Echikwelu tells Baba Rumila, hey, we need to have a meeting tonight. Baba Rumila goes, okay, well, what time and where? Echikwelu goes, same place, and meet me here now. So Baba Rumila jumps up. He stops cuddling Ochun, he gets up, puts on his pants. As he goes to put on his pants, his belt starts to jingle, his keys jingle. That's when Ochun looks over. And she looks at Baba Rumila and goes, where you heading to? Orula goes, oh, well, I have a meeting I have to attend. I'll be back later. Ochun, she goes, mm-hmm. So as Orumila gets ready and heads out the door, Ochun dresses up and follows not too far behind him. As she begins to go ahead and prepare herself and walks out the door, she lets Orumila get a further distance so he couldn't see her. So Ochun begins to follow Baba Rumila. As Baba Rumila arrives at his location, Ochun decides to hide out in some bushes so she can try to see what Baba Rumila is doing. As Orumila is sitting there speaking with the Chikwelu, Ochun tries to get a little closer so she can eavesdrop. So then because of this, Chikwelu and Baba Rumila hear some rustling going on with leaves and things of that nature. So then they stop and they look over. Ochun snap. So then Ochun goes ahead, let them talk a little more, and she makes another attempt. But this time, she leans in a little closer on the tree branch. As she leans forward, the weight makes the branch snaps and she falls. That's when the Chikwelu quickly glances over with the beams of his eyes and he kills the individual. Baba Rumila and the Chikwelu rushes over because they don't know who the individual is. And that's when Baba Rumila determines and sees that it's his apetabi, Ochun. So then he looks to Chikwelu and goes, hey, this is my wife. Us being Babalaos, I got to bring her back to life. So that's when Baba Rumila revives her and brings her back to life. But this time when she comes back as a spirit, and she gains the powers of Egun and also receives the name Iyalode. So this Pataki here shows how the curiosity of Ochun and also the ignorance of Ochun leads her to her demise. Here we're going to be going over the where. And out of this situation, it speaks about the responsibility of Ochun plays with waking up Baba Rumila. And this is out of the Odu Obedi. Here, Ochun and her husband, Ogun, always goes and check up on Baba Rumila to see if he needs anything and how he's doing in the state of his nature. This time, when they go over to Baba Rumila house, they knock on the door. Rumila answers. But when Baba Rumila answers this time, you can tell he's a little agitated, and you can see he kind of has a little cold in his eye still. And that's not normal for when they go and greet and give Baba Rumila before the Bali. So then as they enter, they're speaking with Baba Rumila. And they ask Baba Rumila, is everything okay? Rumila goes, yeah, I'm okay, but I'm just a little uneasy. I'm a little shaken. I don't feel well. So then they ask Rumila, what's going on? What's wrong? He goes, well, Obesai been waking me up kind of harsh lately, not really caring about how he wakes me up. Because it's born here in this Odu how you can't just wake a Babalao up abruptly. You have to calmly wake up a Babalao. Because if not, spiritual things will happen to that Babalao. I can't really get off into the exact details, but just know that when you're waking up Awoni or Rumila, you have to do it in a real gentle manner to where you're not waking him up real abrasive. So then because of this, Ochun and Ogun look to Baba Rumila and tell him, we got somebody in mind back in Yesa village that can do a better job with this situation. Rumila goes, well, if that's the case. So then Ochun and Ogun go back to the land. And when they go back to the land, they sit down and they meet with Obedi. They sit there and explain to Obedi the situation. And Obedi is more than thrilled to the fact that they even thought of Obedi. So then it is now out of this Odu, Obedi, where he's responsible for waking up Baba Rumila. So as we're finishing up the where, it comes from out of the next patak we're going to speak about. It comes from out of Odu, Baba Odime. And this is where the first Iko Fafun is given. And in this pataki, out of the Odu, Baba Odime, it speaks about where Ochun Ladio is the first one to receive the Iko Fafun. Because here she would go and visit a close friend of her, Odudua. And Odudua had Iku, who would go and visit Odudua house quite often. And in this pataki, Iku convinced Ochun that she needed these two ikinis from Odudua. They were sacred ikinis. So then because of that, Iku thinking, because he did like a lookout for Ochun, that he could or she could continue to try its way and seduce Ochun. But Ochun always steadfast to never disrespect Baba Rumila or get with anybody else, constantly denied Iku from making advances on her. And because of this, Iku began to get frustrated. Because of that, Iku began to wage war on Ochun and send negative spirits, Aro, Ofo, Enya, Araye, to Ochun. Till it got to a point to where Ochun began to get sick, and the baby that she was carrying with Baba Rumila began to come in danger. So that's when they sat down and gave a Osode to Ochun. And that's when this Odu, Baba Odime, came out. That's when Ochun went and sat down and spoke with Yewa and brought Yewa Adimusis so that Yewa could help defend Ochun till she received her Iko Fafun. Ochun, receiving her Iko Fafun, from this moment on began to have a better life and things began to get easy for her. And out of this Odu is to note that at the time, Yemeya was also with Baba Rumila, but she did not have her Iko Fafun. So this is the reason why, as to Ochun Ladio being the first one to receive her Iko Fafun. So now that we finished up the where, let's dive into the why. And the why is here speaking as to how Ochun ended the war that was on earth in the Odu Iroso Ika. And at this time, the world was in turmoil. Both sides of people of this land were fighting an endless war, a lot of bloodshed. I mean, a lot of bloodshed. To the point even Alofi tried to intervene and stop it. Baba Rumila tried to intervene and stop it, and nobody could do it. Ochun basically saying, hold my beer. Watch this. So Ochun decides to descend down to earth. And when she gets down there, she gets with the leader of one of the lieutenants of the leader of one part, and she ends up having sex with him. She goes to the other general that was on the other side, and she has sex with him. So then now, all of a sudden, a cease of war broke out. And with the cease of war breaking out, everybody's in shock because it's been years since a lot of the powers, Santos and Saints tried to get the war to stop. And because of this, Baba Rumila's jaw drops to the ground and he looks at Ochun and said, "You have to be my wife. Because you yourself have been able to do something that Ebo hasn't been able to stop, and countless Santos and Orishas have not been able to stop. You yourself possess the power, and because of that, you got to be mine." Now, we're going to go off into the Odu, Ochegunda, and this is where Ochun saved civilization. Because in this Odu, individuals began to hire Ogun for a job and for work. And Ogun, being Ogun, he pushed through and handled it. Now, because the individual didn't necessarily like the method how Ogun did it, began to nag and complain to Ogun, to the point Ogun, being Ogun, said, "Screw all of y'all, I'm out of here." So because of this, Ogun went off to the forest. And because of that, civilization began to slow down. People weren't eating, people weren't traveling, because Ogun is transportation. He's technology. So the world basically came to a halt. And it got to the point to where everybody went begging for the help of Ochun. And Ochun decides to go into the forest to retrieve Ogun, like a lot of other people tried to do, but they failed. Because Ochun put all the honey in her body when she went into the forest to go get Ogun out, Ogun went to go grab her. But because Ochun had the honey on, it kept slipping. Until finally, Ogun was tasting the honey of Ochun and he followed her out of the forest. This is how Ochun saved civilization by getting Ogun out of the forest, and the world went back to operating and working.